Oh, dancing our way to Amazon bestseller. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all-natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your daily self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Mm-hmm. Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week with expert guests and have intentional conversations about how do we be wise in business, relationships, and wellness? How do we do this in the midst of so much chaos going on?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to our regular Wednesday, 5 p.m.
Yes.
Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. Us
Yes.
remembering how to do this after all the lives this week.
Mm-hmm. One thing after another. And that's what I love about, and we've shared it earlier, when you do things differently, in this situation, when it's different, what does that look like? And then in this situation, okay, what do you need now? And we do that in business with the different ways we pop up. So it's been fun.
Absolutely. How was your day overall?
My day was good. I mean, every day I think there's going to be an opportunity to choose what type of perspective you're going to have, right? Sula shared about that. You have a choice. And so we took a break that we normally don't have. We came on live at 1, right? If you guys have not been on all the lives, we came on live, and usually we are together, even though you see us at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are usually working at 1 o'clock, right? So we went live, and pivoting to do the launch has been a beautiful thing, to practice and learn how to do the new things, and then to rest. So you rested, I went and rested, I went and took a walk. We've been talking about being in nature and keeping the non-negotiables. So since I didn't run this morning, I said, let me take a walk. And I laid down, shut my eyes for a few minutes to reset. And that's what we were talking about on my Instagram yesterday. Somebody said, what is reset? And when we talk about these things like reset, we talk about multi-use products, even body doubling. Like, these are words that we use, but somebody else is like, I don't know what that is. I had to Google it, so. Yeah.
Very interesting. So how did you describe reset?
Yeah. So reset, I told them, is something that if you don't do, you won't be the same, right? So it's how you come back centered, you recalibrate, and you're operating from a place of calmness, and that's where you're most effective. It's also like homeostasis, right? And that's a really scientific word. But when I think about balance in the pH, is back to balance. And then something else I wanted to say that I'll continue the conversation with on social media, it's like plugging up your phone, so we don't turn off our phones how we used to and take the battery out, deassemble it, all this stuff. I kind of wish we still took batteries out sometimes. But if my stuff is plugged up, I plug up my phone, I plug up my computer, and I'm walking away from it. So that's kind of how I think about it. I plug in myself to whatever I'm doing to rest. And we talked about the 7 different types of sacred rest, and I unplug from everything else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. Right. And I think there's like little resets during the day. And then like going camping last weekend for me was a big reset because I got to be away from, we talked on last week's podcast about taking 24 to 48 hours off. And you were like, when are you doing that? I'm like, this date. And I was expecting to have about 3 days, but we were on deadline. So there were a few things going on, but I got a solid 48 hours away from my phone and just in nature, which was, and with people I adore. And, that was really, really needed. And a little counterintuitive sometimes when we think, okay, we're on deadline and things like that, but we pretty much were just waiting. We had all the stuff in once it got in, but and there's always more to do. That's the thing I think about is the work doesn't end. If we don't set the time that we're going to take a pause, then then things like this happen. And so it's, or side by side, they happen.
And what we're talking about, I think there's always a level of chaos in the world. Right? It's not like the world has world peace all at the same time. There's different peaceful moments in life and moments where you have to address certain things, So again, when we were talking about the systems, that's one of my favorite things about it, because even and one of our readers has said this, right? That my chapter helped her realize that even in the system, expecting the unexpected, expecting for the 18-wheeler to be stuck in the middle of the highway, expecting that, oh, I forgot something in the house, I have to go back to get it. I had to learn that on college campus. You need something else. You're going to be late to class. Let's go ahead and anticipate something happening. And your walk is not 5 minutes. It's 15 minutes, so getting used to those different things. And not judging yourself for it. Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, why is this more difficult? And we're not realizing, well, the context is different, of course, so that's why I've enjoyed the environmental wellness of having all these wise women and their resources and stories around me.
Right. And speaking of, today, as our listeners who've been listening for a long time, or if you just joined us, our podcast is rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness. So we like to touch on every dimension of wellness. We often talk about multiple ones at the same time, but every week we highlight at least one. Yeah. So this week is environmental wellness. Shannon, you ready for me to give the definition before we bring some of our authors up? All right. Yeah, we have a special show for y'all today. So environmental wellness is supporting your good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that enhance well-being. It promotes interaction with nature and also creating enjoyable personal environments, both in and out of your workspace. This includes knowing the types of environments you thrive in and having an intentional relationship with these places, including the earth. So this one impacts us all. It's especially one that's close to my heart. In this volume, I wrote about environmental wellness. And I was thinking about when you said, Shannon, you took a walk. I'm so glad you got to. I had to lie down, but I was thinking about just being outside and getting to connect, even in the middle of the day, because that's one of my practices. I like to walk outside and put my feet on the earth or go out in the sunshine for a moment. And especially in the midst of deadlines and fun stuff happening. I think it's even more crucial. I was thinking, I think the sun's still going to be up by the time we get off. So I'm going to make sure I get out there. I got out there at dawn this morning, but I haven't been back since. But I would love to start bringing our authors up and talk to them about their environmental wellness and their chapters in the books. And I think we're going to have a few popping in and out today, but we already have 2 in our green room. So you ready?
Yes, let's do it. Let's start the party.
All right, let's do it. Welcome to the stage,
hey, ladies,
and Coach Co.
Hey, Courtney.
Hi.
Welcome. Loving those glasses, Coach Co. Those
Thank
are
you.
fabulous.
You be mixing it up.
So when y'all think about environmental wellness, I know that was not what your chapters were this go round, but what do y'all think about when you think about environmental wellness when we read the definition?
Sula, did you want to go first?
I'll be happy to go first. I think of everything that surrounds us, everything, starting from, the cleanliness of our space, if that matters to us, all the way to nature or, just the environment in general with, taking care of our environment, taking care of the earth, taking care of the ozone, making the choices that will impact our future or our future generations. So, but it starts in our home. For me, one of the things I do every day is I make my bed. And if I don't make my bed, that's one of my first notes of, oh, maybe I'm depressed. So.
Yes, very important. What about you, Courtney?
So when I think about environmental wellness, I think about the space that I'm in. Do I feel safe in this space? Does this space bring me joy? I think I get that from one of the authors from the first book, Melody LeBaron.
Yes.
And just like, does that space really does it define how I'm feeling right now? And I think about today, like my space was very crowded today because of, working and being in the classroom and just being around the kids so much. I felt very confined and restricted and overstimulated. So one of the things that I had to do, I had to send one of them out of there. The energy, the negativity, the just all of it was just too much. I could feel it in the room. It was that great. And so I was just like, we need to create some space. And so I created some space.
Good job, teacher.
Thank you.
It's important. What about you, Dr. Anna? I know you're jumping into the conversation where we are, and we're talking about environmental wellness and what that brings up for us right now as we launch this book. What are you thinking?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So, we live in our environment, we work in a different environment or in the same environment. So it's a very familiar environment, right, throughout our day. Even our car is a familiar environment. And if we see that everything around us is actually alive, meaning it's all energy, it's all consciousness, it was created through ingenuity, through human ingenuity, then and we put love into it, or we put joy into, for example, arranging a corner in our home, right? Or your classroom, or our car that's taking us to the next talk that we're going to do, where we're going to share our wisdom and help other people. So if we look at our environment, not for just the material that it is, but for the spiritual and emotional value that it holds for us, then suddenly our environment becomes a very nourishing environment for our wellness. So a mug, I was in an interview this morning and I gave the example, if you got a mug from someone who you love, it's not just a coffee mug, it's a mug that connects you to that person. So if you take take a minute to think of that person, you turn it from just a material object that has functionality for your coffee or your tea to something that's emotionally and spiritually nourishing. And so the same is for your classroom, for your car if you're driving in it, where you work, where you live, everything has emotional connection to you. And so it can be a very nourishing environment if you treat it that way.
I love that. Okay, and I have to share, because look, this mug I'm drinking out of, Anna, this is attached to a story that includes a dirt road and my husband and I following one of those little brown signs to find a potter, and him being like, this is how every horror story starts. We're gonna die. And being like, no, this is where you find the best artist in the Appalachians. We didn't die. We met this incredible artist, and we came home with mugs and souvenirs of our special weekend together. So I love that you picked that example while I'm drinking out of this mug today.
Awesome.
Yes.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Yeah, sure. I was going to tell Sula something, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just wanted to add to that what you said about, creating those memories, about attaching yourself to a person, because that's how I feel about coffee in general. Like when people always say, oh, are you going to stop drinking coffee? There's been times where I have stopped drinking coffee, but it just reminds me of a space that I share with my mom. My mom used to make coffee for me in the morning when I got up in the morning for school, and used to, put coffee by my bed. And sometimes we would sit outside and drink coffee and have our toast and coffee. So coffee makes me feel very connected to her. And when I go without it for a while or something like that, it always goes back to, no, that's like letting go of the memories that are attached with my mom. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say to Sula that whatever it means to you, but when I'm imagining when you make your bed, you're putting love into your bed. You're kind of taking care of it, right? There's this place, whatever it is for you. It could be order, it could be calm. Like these are all qualities that if you pay attention, why am I making my bed? And you go like it brings order. It feels like I've shifted from the night to the day. I feel like I'm taking care of myself. Suddenly, all of these qualities, like you don't need to go to a workshop to experience care. You can experience care making your bed and just taking 30 seconds to go like, I'm putting care into my life right now. And suddenly you're filled with so much love and care. I mean, I'm even experiencing the love and care as I'm just talking about it, right?
It's actually
that's the power of the material world.
It is creating a intentional order for my future self. It is a way for me to tell myself that I care about my future self.
I love that.
So
yeah, and that's
It's
awesome.
beautiful.
I do have a story to go along with the material things that we take places. I do large art festivals. They're called burns. And for every single burn, I take this round coffee table that I learned to walk on as a toddler. And it is, if I would be devastated if I could not take that coffee table. It sits right outside my tent. So I create this living room environment right outside. So I have a piece of my home and a piece of my the little girl that lives inside of me that's full of wonder at all these festivals.
That's beautiful. Something that makes that it's like an anchor, you know, and that for me, that's the system, right? When you don't have an anchor, when you don't have a person that's an anchor, when you don't have a physical place that's an anchor, well, how do you anchor yourself? You anchor yourself by making sure that you're set up in every environment. And for me, I hear what you're saying, right, Anna, on the love that you can put in your bed. I don't think about the love for my bed. I think I can add that to the list of things I think about when I'm making it, right? But I think about this is something that I have control over, that if I get this done, I can get the next thing done. And like Sula said, it absolutely, right? Me taking care of my next self, but future Shannon at whatever time I get back in the bed, she's taken care of. And it's me holding the commitment that I made to myself. And so the one day I think it was like 2 days, maybe the past few years, I didn't make my bed. And it was days where huge stuff happened. I say, yep, that makes sense. And I didn't judge it. I noticed it and said, you knew you were there today. That's okay. Make it tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that. And it's crazy because first of all, I never make my bed. That's a habit that I started from a kid on down. Like I try to start the new habits and try to make my bed and stuff like that. But it's just like, it's kind of like I leave it how I left it type of thing. Like I'm right here in this spot. But going back to something that you guys said earlier, it made me think of something that Shannon said for physical wellness back on volume 1, when we were just kind of talking about Shalo Glow, and you were just saying just kind of have that time where you just put on oil and you massage the areas and you really just spend that time practicing self-care, but you were putting love into yourself. You're taking that essential oil and putting love into yourself and saying, I care about these parts of my body. These parts of my body need nurturing. Just imagine putting some of that Shalo Glow lemongrass on your heels and actually massaging them after a long day and saying, you did everything that you needed to do. You kept me going today. And so that is another part of your body being connected with the environment. It has to be well too, so you can put love into your body.
Mm-hmm. And the consistent moisture, I guess you would say moisturization, whether it's throughout the day, throughout the week, reminds me of your still points. Right, Christine, how you were saying, like, as you work, you take a second. As I was pulling food, I'm great at taking care of my guests, taking care of my internal guests, my whole team. It doesn't matter, hundreds of people. I'm gonna check on you. I'm laps around the restaurant, right? I'm always checking on everybody. And so in that, me and one of my friends, Marie, we had to start including water breaks. Right. As a server, you go to a table. That's one of the first things you do is make sure that somebody has their drink. And of course, you're upselling them. Right. So I try to make sure I have my water. What else do you want? You want tea? You want coffee? And make sure that I have my stuff in my station. And I started doing that as a manager when I went back in order to work in the businesses this year so that I could add that into my workflow. So when I came over into the businesses, as I take care of you ladies and we take care of the people who are benefiting from our resources, we can make sure that we're hydrated and taken care of. And as we pour out, we pour back in. And the last thing I want to say, we can talk about the next thing. Christine, you reminded me of it earlier. In difficult times, that's when I pour extra. Right. So if throughout the year I've been doing 2 facials, it's facials and walking and other stuff. And some moms say, oh, that's cute. I'm glad you have so much time, but whatever works, like Sula's chapter, whatever works for you in that season. If I feel like I'm going to pour out a lot that day or whatever the time span is, that's when I really try to be intentional about checking in. Where am I? What do you need right now? And that minimizes, like we were talking about yesterday, taking stuff personal. A lot of times we could be like, well, this person should have did this person should have did that. Well, actually, you feel that way because you didn't rest, because you didn't drink your water, because you didn't eat. Let me make sure I go eat. And then maybe I'll have that conversation differently.
You're not yourself when you're hungry.
I'm not. I'm not.
If I could
Anna,
just add to, that at the times when we're busy, the last thing we want to do, it's interesting, we're pulled like a magnetic pull to just keep going. But if we do have the discipline and the intention and the self-love and the self-care to take those 30 seconds, I mean, it's usually a minute or two, it's no more than that,
right,
to get a water or suddenly an herbal drink, and suddenly you feel like, wow, I just had some hot tea with an herb, and I just connected to, I know who I am again, and I can come to whatever the next activities from that place. But it's the hardest because we want to just, I've got so much to do that I don't have time, right?
right.
But if we take that moment, it really makes a difference.
So let's talk about herbal tea a little bit more, because they talked about this on the Live to Be 100, the blue zones, right, that we've been talking about last season. So do you have a specific herb that you like in your tea?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I have a garden, and there's a corner where I have all these I've got lemon verbena, lemon balm. I can't think of
Wait,
lemongrass.
lemon balm is an herb.
Lemon balm is an herb. Lemon verbena is an herb. Lemongrass is an herb.
Right.
And so there are days where I make a cup of that with a big tablespoon of honey, and I put boiling water on that, and then I take a big mason jar and I put it in with regular tap water.
Okay.
And then I have a drink throughout the day. And there's the beauty of the herbs. They're kind of floating in the water. And so all of these things create, for me, what is spiritual material wellness, right? It's like you're drinking something. It reminds me, it centers me. It's also beautiful. So for a moment, I'm experiencing beauty. So that's the kind of stuff that I do. It seems like small, mundane things, but if we elevate and pay attention to the emotional and spiritual component of them, suddenly it's a whole other level.
It is. And it can be beautiful. What'd you say, Cole?
I say my heart feels full after she said all that, because it's like, we're starting this 75 soft challenge that's been going around on Instagram. Have you guys heard about it?
What's going on?
The 75 soft challenge, and there's a hard challenge too. So it's about, working out how many days a week, reading at least 10 pages a day. And it's just like a few things that you list out. And there's I want to say maybe 2 things on the challenge that you have to do to be considered the 75 soft challenge, but you're making these goals. And I feel like what Dr. Anna was saying was just to keep on, making sure to add some natural herbs to my diet, to add some natural drinks to my diet, because I literally don't feel like I make it throughout the day without some form. So I need some energy. By the time lunch comes, I need another pick me up, and I don't want to be that dependent on caffeine. You know what I mean? So I do want to start incorporating some more things. So I really felt very full by that. I was like, you know what? I need to add this to my 75 soft challenge.
I like that. And that's what I was thinking too, Cole, when you were talking about the connection that you have to coffee and sometimes your want to not drink it, right? Sometimes, and you can do whatever makes you feel most comfortable, right? But what I found to build healthier habits, sometimes I have to disconnect it. If being on camera and my teeth being yellow, and I think about it, right? I like my teeth to be white, just so y'all know, right? So if it's like something that I'm thinking about, now instead I'll try to couple it with a healthier habit. So let me drink the tea and I can still think about her, right? And I might imagine her at the table drinking coffee. I can drink my tea and then keep the closeness that I wanted. But also, if you just want to keep coffee, you can do what you want to do and then be even healthier in another way,
I'll give her some tea too. Like she's older, so she can have some tea. She can have some tea too. Like, it's like every goodness, kind of just spread the love, spread the health, right?
Yeah.
Coach Co, do you have a patio? If I were to bring you some mint and verbena, do you have a place that it could get a little sunshine? All right. I'll hook you up. I've got both in my garden. And mint and lemon verbena, the reason they stay in my garden is because they're hard to kill. They're 2 of my favorites, and I make tea out of those. So I'm happy to share. Sula, what about you? Do you have herbs and herb tea that you like?
No, tea is a big part of my life in many of my communities. And I probably, in the house, I probably have 100 different types of tea. And I have a shelf that y'all can't see that is full of my teapots. Um, if I'm having a bad day, tea is my first stop. So, and sometimes I drink tea in the morning instead of coffee. So tea affects so many things. It is a part of your environment. It is a nutritional thing. It is a centering thing. It can be an act of service. Let me make you tea. It's a conversation point.
Ooh, I like that.
Um, it's just tea is a hobby for me. It's a huge part of my life, and I'm even in the Austin Tea Society, where we go on one Sunday a month. I haven't been in several months. Where we dress up in the fancy hats and the pretty clothes, and we have ladies' tea in tea shops.
I love it. I want to see Sula dressed up with her hat on.
Oh my God, I've been wanting to do that all my life. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to have a tea at a book signing. Like when I was a Girl Scout leader years ago, one of our acts of service we would put on a mother-daughter tea. My troop was in charge of that for a couple of years. And you even describing that, Sula, took me right back to it. Like how fun it is to dress up and have big hats and have choices of tea and be a little fancy with it. I love that.
Yeah.
So I hear you on I might not be taking the herbs out of the corner of my garden, like Anna's beautiful garden, right? And Christine has her different herbs. But out of the 100 that you have, would it be easy for you to tell us a favorite top 5?
Yes. So
okay, what's your top 5?
I have an Irish breakfast tea that is my go-to. That's the replacement of my coffee half the time. I have a ginger peach green tea by Stash. That is my standard pour it over iced tea. And in the evenings, I will either go between a chamomile lavender tea, which I drank lots of yesterday for the book launch anxiety. It's like I ran out. I have no more. So it's like, okay, brain chemicals, you gotta fix yourself. Or a apple cider chamomile tea.
Those are beautiful. It's like art. It's like you just painted us a picture. That's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's also the green and white fusion tea. That's also a good pour it over ice or drink it hot.
Love it.
Wow. The whole art thing. It's like a ritual, right? It's like ritual making.
If I am having a bad day or a bad time, it always starts with tea. It's the beginning of the reset. It is something I do that tells my body you're on the wrong path and we are resetting. Starts with tea.
Love it.
And then
thank you for sharing that.
With Godzilla. That's
powerful.
So weird.
Godzilla. Say more. Say more.
I'm about to watch Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's what I'm about to watch.
Okay. And yesterday you were telling us what you have, chips, and do you have like a certain snack that you like when you were going into your Godzilla mode? What's your Godzilla snack?
My favorite snack is popcorn in general, but I love Lay's. That's like my favorite chips, but I try to back off Lay's because of the salt. But Lay's, I love Lay's and a Coke Zero.
Okay.
Lay's and a Coke Zero. That's just
like original Lay's.
Yes, like plain Lay's original. That's been my go-to since college. In college it was regular Coke, but now I done wean myself off and put myself on Coke Zero.
I hear you. I hear you on the weaning. Okay. Well, we've talked about environmental wellness. How are you ladies feeling about the impact that you've seen so far for your chapter? Is there anything else that you would like to share that we haven't already gone over on the calls? And Anna, I'll start with yours while you ladies are thinking about it. What I love about your chapter and the spiritual material wellness and it combined, right, is like an answer to one of my hesitations of my chapter, right? And one of the hesitations in my chapter is me talking about starting Shaylo Glow, the business I started on my unemployment, for unmitigated financial freedom for my family. right? It is absolutely what Co talked about. I want women to know how to take care of themselves. The products are amazing, ingredients. We could talk about all of that, right? And I don't want that to be lost by me talking about, I wanted to start my business to make money, right? But that is part of the story. And then I'm showing you why. Because when life happened, then we didn't have time and couldn't afford time to take off, So when I think about time and financial freedom, it's, the freedom to do with my money what I would like, a 3-week vacation tomorrow. We're leaving after the podcast if I choose, financial freedom, right? And time freedom to do the same thing. Like I have the teams and the system set up so the businesses can be taken care of, and I'm on the beach somewhere. And that's what I love about your chapter. Again, the possibility to be looking forward to wealth as a person who's setting up the generational wealth in your family, right? But then also saying, I can be doing this through love. And because I believe that God says all of us are worth it, all of us are worth being healed, all of us are worth being whole, all of us are worth being in community. And to do that, because we do keep going, how you were saying, when I keep giving out, it's going to be from abundance and wealth and not me giving my college tuition how I was doing in college.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups, really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So yay.
Tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
For me, it speaks to the spiritual material, the principle of spiritual material wholeness, which I speak about in my book that's coming out next week.
Yes,
Shift
tell us.
Calling. But so my book is coming out, Shift Calling, a practical guide to accelerate your spiritual growth. But one of the principles to accelerate your spiritual growth is the principle of spiritual material wholeness. So there's a chapter about wealth. You can look at money as paper and coins, or you can look at it as a pathway to freedom or more community, more time alone. Again, if you open this hidden door into the emotional and spiritual meaning behind what you're doing, suddenly the material world is not anymore just dead with no meaning and just accumulating thing. It's a doorway to the hidden inner realm. So I love how you're speaking about, you spoke about it naturally. It's like money for you was a way to freedom, for your family, to spend more time together, to do what you want to do. And it's like, there's love in it. There's altruism in it.
Yes.
And there is being willing to be patient, decisiveness, forthright, persistent. I mean, there's so many qualities that we go to workshops to work on them as if they were separate from our world. But in your story, just in the 2 minutes that you shared, I feel that all of these qualities are there. And if we pay attention to them, suddenly you go, well, I'm persistent. Mm-hmm. I know how to persevere. I know how to build this inner muscle because I want something for people that I love, that are dear to me. Suddenly, it's not just making money as if it's a bad thing. It's like you're building freedom. You're building love. You're building persistence. And you're doing it through coins and paper and through your creams and whatever we're doing. But that's really the bond and the unity between the two. And that's where it becomes meaningful.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I have a question for you as somebody who's been a supermodel. Do you feel like when you were in those spaces with the brands in Paris, doing all these different things, did you feel like it was lacking? Did you feel like you saw it some places and didn't see it other places and it made you more interested? How did that go for you?
So, so I was 18 when I was invited to come to Paris and work as a fashion model. And I came out of a family situation, a divorce, an alcoholic mom, a raging dad, undiagnosed learning challenges, a severe stutter, which you can barely hear. It does come out at times. So for me, it was very liberating. It was like, okay. Plus, I was due into the Israeli military service, which is mandatory for women for 2 years. So it was a big decision. Am I betraying my country and my family and friends? So it was very liberating. So that was one thing that was very significant. Then it was lacking. Yes, it felt like it was lacking a lot of the emotional and the spiritual, right? And yet I loved the freedom. I had financial freedom.
Right.
There was, yes, we're objectified, but there's also a lot of power. Standing in front of the camera, and most of the times it was a guy on the other side, could be a woman, but many times it was a man. I mean, there's a lot of power there. So if you connect to the power that's in there, suddenly it built my confidence. It built my power, because I left home and high school at the age of 18, loathing myself. So it built my self-confidence. So it had that in there as well, right? But for sure, and when I worked with people who were very creative, like top people, then suddenly my heart would sing because we were doing something creative. And I was trying to contribute to the vision they had in their mind, just like a director would, right? I did, for 5 years, like the 5 final years, I did a lot of commercials, and commercials in France are very different than in the US. They have a story. They take like big names who actually are artists or film directors, and they do the commercial. So it had a lot of meaning. And so all of those layers are there. And I felt like as well, like it wasn't enough, and I was looking for something else, which got me back to school and my spiritual journey and all of that. So and the further away I am from that time, which is now, like 40 years or so, the more I appreciate that I got to live in Paris, France for 10 years. I mean, it was hard when I was there, for sure. I was lonely a lot, but definitely an amazing experience.
Yes. And that reminds me of Isabel Gonzalez Whitaker. She wrote in fashion in all these different magazines, and she was just sharing on the podcast how she felt the same way. It was a lot when I was there. New York was a lot, but I wish I would have understood what I was doing and enjoyed it a little bit more, and that's part of what I love about the way that I've learned to work in different environments, because when you look at what's working, when you look at what you can do better next time, it lets you celebrate what's working. Like, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff that I did. And okay, like you said, if you're modeling and you feel like some things are missing, what else do I want to see for myself, for my life? And that's exactly where I was in the chapter, right? Papado, again, learning about history and women making, what was it, in the 80s, women were making a median of $25,000. Like, so for me to be making almost not 6 times, but 3 times that, like 63,000, that's pretty good, a good amount, right? So to leave it because it's not about money, it's about the benefit and what else I feel like my purpose is and where we're going.
Yeah.
It's important to be able to talk about the numbers, know how to negotiate, talk about the other dimensions of wellness and how you're affected, and then weigh how you want to spend your life.
Yeah. What I like about the entire book,
yes,
and in all the dimensions of wellness, is that it gives you an expanded gateway. It gives you more options to see your life from a more expanded way. And if I can make reference to my book again, that's another principle, the expansive principle. If I'm just a human being based on the circumstances of my childhood, I'm doomed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really doomed. But if I can tap into social wellness, well, what does that mean to me? We just talked about environmental wellness and had such a rich conversation. Financial wellness, any type of wellness, all the dimensions. I feel like it gives the reader all these doorways to a more fulfilling life and more whole life.
Yes.
And at different times you pick up the book and you open it a page and you go, oh, financial wellness is just what I needed now. Mm-hmm. Another time you open the book, oh, spiritual wellness, I really needed that lesson now. But it's like it's a tool, in a sense, the book to have by your bed, mm-hmm. and open it and say, oh, I need this wellness now, I need this wellness now, I need this wellness now. And that's how you live a whole life that's more fulfilling and whole than one dimension, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I so agree with you, Dr. Anna. Coach Co is needing to jump off. So, Coach Co, any words before you pop off here? Your 2 chapters, you want to give a shout out for them?
Oh, yes. Social wellness, as Dr. Anna said, with social wellness, that's one of the ones that's really near and dear to my heart. Understanding the relationship that you have with self and that you have with others, that you have with God, and how you connect spiritually. All of those matter when it comes down to social wellness. Learning more about yourself, because one of the things that I talked about on my live yesterday was saying that a lot of times people are running from themselves. They don't even sit down because they can't bear to sit down with their thoughts and connect with their thoughts. So we stay busy, so that we don't have to think and that we don't have to listen. And when we don't think and we don't listen, how many other wellness dimensions are, pushed to the side because we're not listening and we're not hearing. We don't hear those still voices. We don't connect with those still points. We don't connect spiritually. We don't have tea time, to really reflect and reduce anxiety. We don't have that. So it connects in all aspects of getting to connect with yourself. And as I also wrote about financial wellness, to Shannon's point, building that wealth, it started with me learning a different relationship to have with money. Money can't be your master. Money can't be something that you chase. You have to know, going back to yourself and that social wellness piece, you have to know who you are, your morals, and what you are willing to do and not do, your non-negotiables when it comes down to money, because you're going to be taken advantage of by so many different people and so many different opportunities. You're going to be hurt. And then what's going to be left of you? What's going to be left of your heart? So I learned that very quickly on in my financial wellness journey, and had to take off those lens of reality and fantasy. And that's what I wrote about, really underlining in both chapters, is coming to terms with what reality was, and not in a sense of, hey, that doesn't mean I can't dream or that I can't do anything, but just saying that I have to take off what I thought life should be and live in what it actually is and move forward accordingly that way. So that is really my take on it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Co.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Of course.
Bye.
Of course. See you soon.
First, thank you so much and congratulations on your book. Sula, your chapter was amazing. Shannon, Shayla Glory is changing my life over here with my oils. I'm about to go rub on myself soon.
Yes.
And Christine, thank you so much for your chapters. They just brought me so much joy. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's delightful to be in community with you, Coach Co. And thank you. See you tomorrow.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye. Sula, that sunshine is coming in, that Texas sunshine. And So I just wanted to check in with you because we hadn't heard your voice in a minute. Anything you want to share with our listeners about the chapter you wrote about self-care as an all-time job?
Yeah, I want to tie into what Anna and Coach Co were saying about this, our strong points and our weak points. They used a different word. I've already forgotten what that was. But everything's a spectrum. And I had a difficult time deciding to write what I wrote just because it's a difficult topic. I mean, it's a sad thing. I don't want to bring the book down being sad, right? But it was really just about the struggle of figuring out where my balance was in a very traumatic time. And every area of our life is a spectrum. And I believe that we are balanced humans, whether we want to be or not. So if we have super strong, we can't be super strong in all our skills. For every super strong skill, there is a less strong skill. And then the goal is, to be as balanced as possible in the middle for things that aren't your priorities, and to be super strong in things that are your priorities, and to let things go that aren't. And when I was writing my chapter, it became things I thought wasn't my priorities, because self-care is really for our future selves, right? Acute self-care, which is what I was in the middle of, is for right now. And I really got the difference between that, and that I had been living just for now. I wasn't really living for future, but I could tell that I'd done a lot of work that took care of myself today. Over the past 10 years, I built this amazing community, and they took care of me. But now I see, the value in having stronger financials and having a stronger physical self, a stronger environment. I see where my balance needs to switch a little, and just hearing all the stories from other people. And my hope is that in sharing my story, it's a gateway for harder conversations. It's a gateway for people to be honest with themselves about exactly where they are. Because that's the first step, starting where you are. And the first step to starting where you are is admitting to yourself where you are. It doesn't really matter what you tell other people, but what you tell yourself is your true starting point.
So powerful. Thank you, Sula.
Yes.
One of the things I love about this volume, and volume 1 too, is just the diversity of experience, of life experience, of different ages, different backgrounds, different belief systems, and how when we look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, that there's so much wisdom that we can bring, and so many resources and tools. And you were saying, Anna, about you pick it up and you read it at different times. And Sula, your chapter speaks to me in that way, because there are times that bring us to a screeching halt. And what do we do then? Right? I always talk with folks.
We open this book
Absolutely.
and see what page opens up, right?
And we connect, especially if we're so lost or it's been so traumatic that we need an anchor and that we need somebody else's wisdom. Because I've been that lost before, where I've lost my wisdom and I needed to reach out. That, you remember that game show where we phone a friend? That's what I think about with Women Connected in Wisdom, right? And we were talking about this on another earlier live about how in community you have people that can sing your song back to you when you're not able to sing it for various reasons, or you've forgotten it, or and I think that is the beauty of this, is that bringing those stories, bringing those tools and those resources to each other and to ourselves, because that's the thing about wellness, is we may be hitting it on all cylinders one day, and the next day we're knocked flat by the world or grief and loss or our bodies as we age. Different things change. And so we may need a different tool tool or a different resource. And I think that this group of expert authors offers our listeners and our readers just some amazing wisdom.
Yeah. And to speak to the wisdom, that's why I would say, Sula, that it's not too sad. I think that it speaks to the weight of the 3 years, the weight of life in general, So we know that we have the really practical advice, the tools, the resources, and then we have the emotional ones and the deep stories that were told that took a lot of bravery and courage on everybody's from everybody's perspective, right? But what we know, unfortunately, is that fentanyl has affected a lot of families, and because people feel that way, I think a lot of times they don't share their stories. We're taught that, oh, if it's bad or it feels weighted, I'm complaining. When you can say, hey, this is difficult. This happened. I'm struggling to be here for a second. This is what I need to do. I need to come back to the basics, right? So I think you sharing is going to lift a lot of that weight from people and help them forgive themselves for feeling like they couldn't take care of themselves and reminding them that they can start where they are.
And just from a practical perspective, we have 24 reviews, Sula, and none of them say it's too sad. Like, we have reviews that say things like amazing, very inspirational and informative. We have one that says inspirational. This book gives you all the feels, very relatable and encouraging. Yes. I haven't seen one review that says, nope, this is too sad.
Nope. And we even had one that said, I'm struggling this year. I felt like I was by myself. I'm glad to know that I'm not, so yes, to all the reviews and all of the ways that people get seen, they see us, right? So thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories. And it's going to continue to be a beautiful thing.
Anna, I wanted to shout out to you. This review was one of the latest ones that just came in. It came in by John Jackson. And he said, this book is an extraordinary gathering of a wide range of women's wisdom. I am particularly focusing on Dr. Anna Gottman's chapter on spiritual material wellness, the best of both worlds. Perhaps it is enough to say that the entire section on spiritual wellness begins with a quote from Dr. Gottman's chapter. She is dealing with an all too widespread phenomenon in our culture, examining how it is that children make sense of neglect and trauma. Simply put, they blame themselves for being unworthy. The point is that we all carry these feelings forward into adult life, simply assuming them to be true. Not only is this extremely painful, but we also deny ourselves everything that is positive in life by continuing to believe it. Dr. Gottman suggests we could enter into the imaginal realm to retell this story. In doing so, we can build a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms that is profoundly healing. This, she says, should be our daily practice. Highly recommend.
Beautiful, huh?
Right?
Yes.
Beautiful.
What comes up when you hear that about your chapter, Anna?
It speaks to the situation with Sula also. What you talk about is that in the vulnerable places, when we share our vulnerability and our triumph, and even our struggles on a daily basis, because it's not like I share a therapy session where I was doing EMDR, which is a method to work with PTSD. And I brought up a memory from being a newborn in the maternity ward. And it's not like it's gone away, but I have resources now. So even if we're struggling, and we're all struggling, I mean, we've just had a huge event happen in the world, and there's war in different places. I mean, it's touched us to the core, all of us, all the time. And so we're struggling, but bringing our vulnerability and our resources is helpful, because everyone's fighting a battle we know nothing about. And so it's important to remember that we're not the only ones who are mad or crazy or had crazy childhoods or, current situations that are challenging, whatever it is. But really to go to the spiritual and the emotional just opens up. It's like we're opening up the flood of energy that when we're just human and we don't connect to the spiritual, there's no source for us to revitalize ourselves. So we really need to have all the dimensions of wellness and pay attention to all of them. And we need to really open the faucet on the spiritual, because that's where we come from. So
Yes. Very important. Very important to stay full that way, right? Because if you don't have that, like you said, you're cut off. And then when you look out to the world and they're telling you that you shouldn't speak, like that's one of Coach Co's stories, right? She shared how she was told that children and girls are seen and not heard. And so now breaking through that to be a speaker, to be an author, to have her own show is a huge thing. And that's how I think about all of it, and when I talk about the anchor and getting of course, everybody's priceless, right? Getting that value from a spiritual place and not the outside world who would tell me that this amount of salary is the most I'm going to get. Say, no, actually I operate in abundance and we're going to go and work on wellness and help women uplift their stories. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you ladies know that we do Wisdom in Action every week on the podcast. So we've been launching Volume 2 through the launch and for the rest of this week. What are you intentionally doing and we could talk about environmental wellness, or if you have something specifically that's top of mind, you can just say what you're intentionally doing.
For the promotion?
No, for yourself. So you are an author. You're publishing 2 books, right? So everybody wants to know, how do you take care of yourself, Anna? You drink the herbal tea. What else are you intentionally doing this week to make sure that you are okay?
Well, first of all, I do connect to nature in all ways I can. And it's not necessarily, I'm not a hiker. It's not like I'm a sportive person or I go for miles for walks, but it's just, I take in the beauty of nature or the taste of nature. And I speak in my chapter about the senses are a gateway to the spiritual realm, right? Through love. So nature in all its forms is how I connect, and because nature is very much in unity between spiritual and material, right? So it's very potent as a resource, and then the material world around me. There's so much love around me because I put so much love into every little piece that I've created here. Has a quality, and if I pay attention to it, so I do that. I walk around, I look out. There's a tree there. I mean, even my computer, I just love it. The whole setting here, and I look at it, and I feel contentment. So suddenly, contentment is an experience I have. So I pay attention to the spiritual and material quality, to the spiritual and emotional qualities of the material world around me, and I resource myself through that. So that wherever I go. So even if I'm driving down, as I said earlier, to a meeting, I thank my car for driving me towards the purpose of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I'm driving down maybe an ugly highway, maybe traffic, but I'm driving in this vehicle that's taking me to my life purpose. Suddenly I feel high on life. So I use the material world to elevate myself wherever I am.
I love it. Elevate myself wherever I am. And I hear you on the love, the intention given. I like that. I'm going to work on putting more love into it. That's my hashtag. Put love into it. And when I think about the different environments and how I set up my systems, that is one thing, right? Like Anna, you said, there might be this ugly highway. There might be this part of an environment that you might not feel like is the most beautiful part, right? Or this person that you don't get along with on a team of however many hundreds of people. That's realistic. We have to have realistic expectations. But at the same time, I knew that if things work for my good, there's going to be some beauty here. There's going to be some type of love. Let me look for the lesson. Let me look for the part that's working for me. And the part that might not be working for me is not in my control. And I can look at it and be honest with how I feel about the situation. But after processing it, let it go and go back to the love that I surround myself with. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sulu? What's your wisdom in action?
So I made sure to pre-cook some food so that I was not eating out. And number one, cooking is healthy for me. It is centering, and it just it makes everything better to chop vegetables. All my aggression comes out there. And so I made sure to cook some food so I would have good food to eat. And I scheduled myself. I have been very non-scheduled for this last year. but I knew this week was going to be crazy. So I actually pulled out my calendar and scheduled me time in pockets where I knew that were for me. And that is a trick that I do periodically during stressful times because it's really easy to forget about yourself. So schedule me time where I can sit in this chair and play a phone game, have a conversation, just no commitments whatsoever. And then what happens is there's more room for what do I need right now. Like yesterday it was tea. This morning it was tea too. So tea is, again, always the answer.
I love it. I love it. I hear you. Schedule me time. And the pre-cooked food is good. All of it. I hear you.
Yeah.
What about you, Christine?
Oh, I'm over here giggling about Anna. You may not know, but Sula and I used to walk to 5th grade together. We have been friends a really long time, and soul sisters when it comes to tea, for sure. My hashtag this week is listen to my body. Because, I'm usually really good about that. But as y'all know, I have this cold and that's so unusual for me. It feels like I may have missed a step last week as we prep for this launch and maybe just not listening as well as I should have. So my hashtag this week and my wisdom in action is going to be listen to my body and do and respond accordingly. So I think that's what's needed because, I wrote the chapter on physical wellness and being an inner player and embodied coach. I do believe that almost everything on this planet with us is physical, and we've got to pay attention to that. And then when we don't, we reset. Like we started the call today, Shannon, like we reset if we need to.
Absolutely.
And when our body gives us clues like head colds, it's time to reset. So that's my other one. I'm going to do 2 like you, Shannon. Okay. I'm going to do my other hashtag is reset.
Reset.
Now, you said one. Do you want to say another one as we wrap?
No, I think that these are things that I'm doing too. So I'm definitely pre-cooking the food, right? Have me time scheduled, have a massage scheduled on the 2nd next Thursday with my godmom. Definitely listening to my body and rested. So, and again, talking about reset. So I think I'm going to incorporate, and maybe that's what it is, incorporate the resources. Because that's what I've been doing. This year we've had the opportunity to work on the audiobook for volume 1, work on the print book and the audiobook for volume 2. So while this team is going through volume 2 different ways, like we talked about with Cecile, I've been listening to all the stories all year, and it's really been beautiful and helpful, supportive and enlightening. So that's where I'm at with it. Yes.
Well, thanks again, y'all, for being here. We're excited to launch this book with y'all. We'll be talking to you more throughout the next couple of days. And y'all, our listeners, if you're listening on replay or you're listening through the podcast, you can check out all these authors in our show notes. You can go to womenconnectedinwisdom.com. You can find this volume on Amazon. And we'd love your feedback. So get it and read it and let us know what you think and connect with these different authors. Get Dr. Anna's book that's coming out next week. She's got this one this week and the other one next week. And we have 3 authors in this book that are simultaneously publishing. Like it's pretty exciting. It is a very fertile time for writing and authors right now. It's pretty exciting. So thank y'all for joining us today. We adore you and we're just so grateful to be connected to you.
Talk to
you
soon.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, goodness. Wrapping up episode 135. Right?
With volume 2 authors. I think about when we started and we were thinking about all the stuff we wanted to do. I wonder if we would have thought that by episode 135 we would be on the 2nd book and working on all this stuff. So I think we've done a really good job.
I don't think we thought about it because if so, we would have thought about how much work it was.
And didn't know how much work it was.
Ignorance is bliss, right? I think sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to do that. Oh, why not start a press?
Right.
Right? So fun.
And I told you it reminds me of Grant Cardone, how he says it's going to take more time and money than you think. And so learning things, doing it for the first time, being able to do it in community, and doing it because you feel led to do it. That's the beautiful thing. So even with the unexpected, I still count it as a blessing and have definitely been able to find the joy in it and the beauty. And what I was
Right?
thinking about, I love how we've been talking about having multiple tools, right? Because sometimes different things work. It's that for me, and it's also everybody's voice being honored. Absolutely, you
Right.
can have your story, and I might do that already, so I'm going to take somebody else's new resource. Or, like you said, this is not a good fit for this season. Let me keep it though. Cecile said, keep it on the table, right? And then do something else. So I love the balance of all of it.
And I love the building of the resources. You know,
Mm-hmm.
volume 1, we had 18 authors. This volume,
Yeah.
we have
12.
14, and they just 12, yeah, 14 stories, and they're just
Yes.
building, right? And then the building of 135 episodes,
Right.
that's well over 100 guests, y'all. That if
Definitely.
you haven't had a chance to go back and listen, go back and check them out, because
Yeah.
one of the things we love is uplifting voices and stories, and getting the resources that,
Mhm.
I mean, there's just such a
So many.
multitude of them, right?
Yes,
Well,
there
my
are.
friend, we're at time. We're a
Let's
little
go.
over. So
That's
anything
okay.
else you want to give a shout out for before we close this one out?
Last thing I want to do, and this is only if you guys are listening close, right? If you're one of our live listeners or you're one of the people who you get our notifications and you're downloading it this week, when Christine said you could find it on Amazon, you want to do that as soon as possible because this is the lowest that you're going to find the book for. Right now it's $1.99 and it will be going up after that. So if you like to give Christmas presents, you know people who are interested, however you want to do it, we're trying to let you know that this is how you keep the most money in your pocket and get those resources as soon as possible. And I think that's enough for one day. We'll follow up with resources and links and what we're doing after the launch on our social media.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, guys, we'll see you live at 5. So for the podcast, we'll be here next week, right? Lives on social media. We still have a few for tomorrow. So make sure that you follow the pages and turn on your notification. And in between those lives, don't forget,
Be well
be wise,
and be whole.
We'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.